Mrs. Johnson, a stunning and light-skinned African woman with piercing brown eyes and raven black hair, had 7 children, 4 daughters and 2 sons. Her 3 younger daughters, Gift, Hope, and Grace, and her first son, Alex, inherited her beauty and complexion. However, Maggie, her first daughter, and her second son, Emmanuel Jr. took after their dark-skinned father, with rich, velvety skin and bright, inquisitive eyes. Maggie's life was far from easy. Her mother constantly reminded her that she was unwanted, that her darker complexion made her less desirable. She was forced to do household chores from dawn till dusk, sell items on the street to support her family financially, and endure her mother's endless criticism. Her mother believed Maggie's appearance made her unsuitable for wealthy suitors. "No rich man will ever marry you, Maggie," she'd say. "You're too dark, too ugly. Your sisters are the ones who'll bring me wealth and status." Mrs. Johnson's obsession with wealth and status drove her to exploit her beautiful daughters. She urged Gift, Hope, and Grace to wear revealing clothes and attract rich men. The 3 sisters went out daily, searching for potential suitors, while Maggie stayed home, doing chores. Suitors came and went, but Mrs. Johnson rejected them, deeming them insufficiently wealthy. Maggie watched as her sisters lived a life of luxury, while she struggled to make ends meet. The villagers whispered about Mrs. Johnson's tactics, but she didn't care. Emmanuel Jr., Maggie's brother, stood up to their mother, defending Maggie's choices. Alex, the eldest son, distanced himself from his mother's schemes. He will always console his sister whenever he meets her, crying and questioning her maternity. "Is he really my mother?" she will always ask. "Why does she hate me so much?" Her brother would always console her anytime he meets her like this. "Don't worry, everything would be okay," he would always say. "Don't you have faith?" He would ask her, "Staying in this house has made me lose faith in everything," she would often reply. As the villagers whispered about Maggie and the way her mother treats her, this topic was on every villager's gossip. "Are you sure she is her biological mother?" they would always ask. Suitors came and went, but Mrs. Johnson rejected them, deeming them insufficiently wealthy. She had a checklist: wealth, status, influence, and good looks. Anyone lacking these qualities was unworthy of her beautiful daughters. One suitor, a young teacher named Mr. Thompson, came to ask for Gift's hand in marriage. Mrs. Johnson dismissed him, saying, "You're just a teacher. What can you offer my daughter?" Another suitor, a successful businessman named Mr. Lee, proposed to Hope. Mrs. Johnson rejected him, citing his age. "You're too old for my daughter. She deserves someone younger, more vibrant." A third suitor, a kind-hearted farmer named Mr. Benson, asked for Grace's hand. Mrs. Johnson scoffed. "A farmer? Ha! My daughter will never stoop that low." Maggie watched as her sister's suitors were rejected, one after another. She realized her mother's obsession with wealth and status would never end. One day, an old wealthy entrepreneur, Chief Oladipo, proposed to Gift. Mrs. Johnson was overjoyed, seeing dollar signs and social status. But Gift was hesitant, sensing something off about Chief Oladipo, and moreover he was too old for her. Mrs. Johnson pressured Gift to accept, but she refused. "Mother, I don't love him. And I don't trust him, he is too old." Mrs. Johnson's anger was palpable. "You foolish girl. You'll ruin your life if you don't marry him." Gift stood firm, and eventually, Chief Oladipo lost interest. Hope and Grace faced similar pressures. Their mother pushed them to go for wealthy suitors, regardless of their character or age differences. But Maggie's story took a different turn. When Emmanuel, the keek driver, came for one of her daughter's hand in marriage, Mrs. Johnson saw an opportunity to get rid of her unwanted daughter. So she willingly gave Maggie to him in marriage. Her sisters laughed and made fun of her choice of husband. She agreed willingly, and her brothers told her it wasn't a must. But she said she loved him and would marry him. Even the keek driver was shocked. He thought to himself, could this be love at first sight? He was so pleased that even with his looks she agreed to marry him. "Maggie, you're lucky anyone wants to marry you," she said. "Accept him, and don't bother me with the details." Maggie saw the kindness in his eyes and accepted Emmanuel's proposal, unaware of the surprises destiny had in store for her. The king was driving along the road with his wife when they saw three beautiful ladies walking along the road. He was taken by their beauty and inquired to know more about them. They stopped by and greeted him. He asked of their background and they told him. He was glad to know they were from his village, and when they were gone he suggested to his wife that they should pick one of them for their son when he returns, and she agreed with him totally. He sent a message to Mrs. Johnson telling her that his son the prince would be back soon, and they would be picking a bride from one of her daughters. Being a greedy woman who loved money, she was so elated about the news and starting preparing her daughters for the prince. She bought expensive clothes and shoes in preparation. She bought bleaching soap to make their complexions brighter than it already was. So when the king and his king's men came for her daughter's hand in marriage, she had dressed them beautifully and asked Maggie to stay in the backyard and not pursue the prince with her looks when it was time to present her daughters. The three daughters danced beautifully with all their energy and dancing skills before the prince, who was seated in front watching them motionless like he wasn't interested. His bride wasn't there, he told one of the king's men. "Are these the only daughters you've got?" The king's men asked yes, so except the maid in the backyard. "But why would the king be asking about my maid?" she asked. Her brother was very angry. He rushed to the backyard and brought Maggie. Immediately the prince saw Maggie, he stood up and said, "Here comes my bride." They were confused and he pulled off his glasses, revealing the keek man his sisters referred to as a wretched man. He apologized for lying to her, saying when his father told him he would be picking a bride from this family, he had to disguise himself in order to be sure of his choice of bride. He added that he didn't want a bride that loved him for his money but rather for himself, and he added that he loves Maggie so much and can't leave without her. Maggie's marriage to the prince was an elaborate affair, with the whole village and all the family members in attendance. Mrs. Johnson didn't bother to hide her disappointment. She wished it was one of the three, but she smiled and hugged her, saying, "My Ada." Surprised by that act, her first son looked at her and said, "I have never heard you call her that." She gave a fake smile and said, "Will you keep quiet?" As Maggie settled into her new life with the prince, she discovered joys she never knew existed. Emmanuel's love and kindness transformed her, and she began to see herself in a new light. She once helped a maid to mop the floor, and he almost beat up the maid and warned the maid never to let that repeat itself. On another occasion she left for the market without her car or security guards, and she almost gave him a heart attack. He loved her to a fault and protected her with everything within him. Meanwhile, Gift, Hope, and Grace struggled with their own relationships. Gift's marriage to Chief Okoro turned out to be a nightmare. He showered her with lots of money, but she had a weird feeling. That kind of something is wrong kind of feeling. He had a locked up room nobody enters, and every night she sees a strange lady in her sleep crying for help. She would often tell the husband, who pretends he knows nothing about it, and assured her it's just a dream, but it keeps reoccurring that she gets scared every night. The past refused to stay buried. Chief Okoro's dark secrets began to surface, threatening Gift's safety. Gift discovered a cryptic message from an unknown sender: "Escape now, while you still can." Was it a warning or a threat? Gift's heart racing. She knew she had to act fast. She began to dig deeper to unveil the mystery surrounding the nightmares she kept having. Hope and Grace rallied around their sister, determined to help her escape. Together, they hatched a plan to free Gift from Chief Okoro's clutches. She had uncovered a dark secret about his family's past. Her encounter intensifies when she found a journal written by his late wife. The journal revealed shocking secrets: human sacrifices, dark magic, and a curse that would haunt their family for generations. She also discovered she was the 10th wife. He uses his wives for money rituals and keeps marrying another for the same purpose. And because he was wealthy, no one dared to question. He always bought their silence with enough money. But little did they know that Chief Okoro's rituals had consequences. Gift began experiencing strange occurrences, eerie whispers in the night, unexplained shadows lurking around her. Mrs. Johnson's obsession with wealth and status had devastating consequences, and had almost cost her daughter's life. Gift's escape from Chief Okoro's mansion was a thrilling ordeal. Hope and Grace created a diversion, while Gift snuck out through a hidden door. As they sped away, Gift felt a mix of emotions, relief, fear, and uncertainty. "What now?" Gift asked, her voice trembling. "We'll figure it out," Hope replied, her eyes locked on the road ahead. The sisters drove to Maggie's house, where Emmanuel the prince welcomed them with open arms. "We'll protect you," Maggie promised Gift. "You're safe now." But Chief Okoro's reach was far-reaching. He sent his henchmen to retrieve Gift, and the sisters knew they had to act fast. Emmanuel, a keen strategist, devised a plan to expose Chief Okoro's dark secrets. Together, they gathered evidence of his human trafficking and money laundering operations. The police, initially hesitant, finally agreed to investigate. As the law closed in, Chief Okoro's empire began to crumble. Gift, Hope, and Grace finally found peace, free from their mother's toxic influence. Maggie's love story had inspired them to seek happiness on their own terms. The sisters' bond grew stronger, a testament to the power of sisterly love. Mrs. Johnson, alone and regretful, realized too late the damage she had done. Her obsession with wealth and status had destroyed her relationships with her children. The story of Maggie and her sisters served as a cautionary tale. True wealth lies in love, kindness, and compassion. The sisters' journey to freedom and redemption had been long and arduous. Gift escaped and vowed to never prioritize wealth over love again. Hope and Grace realized their mistakes and sought simpler lives. Hope married a bricklayer, Joshua, while Grace became a second wife to a wheelbarrow pusher, Mr. Aid.